here until
it's uploaded like we did last time. I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. All right, now I'm just gonna. The only annoying thing though is now I have to redo all the stuff that we did before we went live with me altering the background and making it all look nice.
Do I shut the Streamlabs tab now?
Oh yeah. You can shut the Streamlabs tab. Yep.
Okay, I didn't want to shut it prematurely.
No, you're okay. You're all right. I'm still trying to figure out if there's a way that I can use this camera over on here, so I'm keeping it open. But only because I already did all of the editing of this one, and it's really annoying.
Okay.
Why does mine say Scott? Oh, I'm not in my account. Oh, I'm not in our account. I'm not in the 2 Girls 1 Garbage. Yeah.
On StreamYard. What account are we in?
No, I'm in my private one, not the 2 Girls 1 Garbage Can one.
It says 2 Girls 1 Garbage Can up the top of my StreamYard screen.
Yeah, that's because that's what I've called it, but I'm not streaming it to the 2 Girls 1 Garbage Can YouTube. I'm streaming it to my personal YouTube, not the 2 Girls 1 Garbage Can one.
Got ya.
That's fine. I can't be fucked logging in and logging out again. We're just gonna fucking do this.
It's just the YouTube anyway. It's fine. Wait, where are you? You're gone. You're gone. Oh wait, there you are. Oh, thank God, you're back.
I am. Yes.
I thought I lost you into the abyss. I'm gonna go on my Twitch as well. Like I'll stream it to my Twitch and see what the fuck's going on over there.
T has gone away and come back again. Yes. Add item, camera slot, and I'm just gonna option. Oh, for fuck's sake. Why? Oh, that's why. Okay. Got no idea how fucking I hate StreamYard. I wanted to use Streamlab. I was so excited to use Streamlab.
Oh no, I can't fucking believe it.
Not fair, Rach. We worked so hard.
I know. Thank God that we didn't. Can you imagine how friggin' suicidal we would have been if we did the entire podcast and then it didn't record? I would have.
That would be it. There'd be no other podcasting happening ever again.
We would literally go to the Groupie Socks holiday again.
Yeah. Oh, why is
my God. What's going on here?
Oh, it's just, here you go. I'm just fixing it. Don't worry. It's just the computer.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't do something wrong.
No, you haven't done anything wrong. You're fine. As I said, I did all of this shit before we went live on the other one. Oh, now you're too close. Now your face is all zoomed in.
Oh, really? Oh, my God. Okay, you're sitting around the same. Yep. Oh, my God. Why do I look blurry? I look blurry on Twitch, but hopefully not on the StreamYard recording. Maybe it's just Twitch.
Hopefully it is. Hopefully. If you're recording at a local as well, which I have turned on recording local, you know what? It's gone blurry because you're streaming it to Twitch as well. So now it's impacting your internet. But so it'll be streaming blurry, but the recording won't be blurry. We'll have a nice recording for the podcast. Yeah.
I love how now Kim's like, blurry. You're blurry. It's Tamara's internet.
You're definitely blurry. Don't worry, it's Tamara's fault. Tamara's fault. Okay, you're not wrong.
I fucking love
you
that.
need to put me on blast quite so violently. Like, really. I don't know about that.
That's so funny. Oh my God.
Yeah, can't do much about it. No.
It's fine.
But
we can't do much about anything, it would seem.
No, and it'll be recorded on your side just fine. On the podcast, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, all right.
Okay.
Welcome back.
We're good to go.
Garbage can. Okay, let's go. Welcome to Two Girls, One Garbage Can. The blah 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 blah. I can't even remember the intro. What's the intro that we do again? Welcome back to Two Girls, One Garbage Can, the podcast where we examine the garbage can that is our political system and try and make some sense of it. I'm your host, Tamara.
And Rachel.
And I am Rachel. I'm not Rachel. You're Rachel. Oh, fucking
I
hell.
am Rachel, and that is Tamara.
And so this is Tamara. And on today's episode, I am going to be talking today. And we're starting right back at the very beginning. You will be reacting. It's a very important job. Very important job. I'm glad we finally got the sound working, though, because I got to be honest, your reactions are the whole reason we're doing this. Is it ready? All right. Pastas. I'm just going to get the pasta, and then we're going to go. But we did the intro. We got through the intro.
Yay! Right. Also, chat, can you fucking hear me now on Twitch or what? Oh, amazing. Yay, you can hear. Okay, well, this is really, so I'm just going to talk to you guys now. This is so exclusive, what you're getting right now, to be able to listen to us live, record the podcast. Yes, I'm going to. To listen to us live, recording the podcast. This is exclusive content. This is exclusive behind the scenes, what's the word for it? Like sneak peek content of the podcast before it hits the air. You get to see it live, even though I'm blurry, but I'm not blurry on the recording. I thought this was remote tech support. This is remote tech support. This is literally troubleshooting technology. So yeah, we probably won't react to the chat too much while we're in the middle of actually recording, but also if there's like a technical issue or something sounds, I don't know, like you need to like tell us that we need to fix something, definitely put it in the chat and we'll try to like keep an eye on it. I'm a year as, yes, amazing. I know, and this is practice for like, you know how people do like live podcast tours? This is like us just like practicing in real time for that.
Podcast so recording
happening. If we decide to do a live podcast tour, we have already practiced recording a live podcast pretty much in front of all of you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we do you know how people do like live podcast tours? We've already practiced because we're recording live in front of the Twitch.
Which is the best because we get their immediate feedback about how shit it is too.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, we'll obviously not be paying like a huge amount of attention to the chat like while we're doing the bits.
Recording.
Like we're not going to read the chat like we always do. But if there's like a technical difficulty or something that you feel we need to like address, then put it in the chat so that we can like troubleshoot as we go if we need to.
Yeah, you're going to have to like be very loud about it because we're probably not going to.
Yeah.
Where are the ferns?
Not going to notice.
What ferns?
I think they're talking about between two ferns, like the
between two ferns.
You know that?
Yeah,
I love that.
I do.
Zach Galifianakis. It's so
I do love that. Oh, my sign is still up. I was recording. So for everybody who is not a member of the Ko-fi, by the way, I was recording one of my Ko-fi exclusive videos last night, where I was reading out a chapter from the Shake of Error Reader for all my lovely Ko-fi subscribers. So that'll be going up on the Ko-fi tonight / tomorrow. So there you go. Bonuses as promised. As promised, I'm bringing you bonuses. Oh my God, T.
Does
what?
Kim know about what we were? Does Kim know what we were talking about earlier? Is that like a reference to what we were talking about earlier? That joke that Kim just made. To be fair, we as the chat are used to being ignored by a team. We live for being ignored.
No,
is that a reference?
No, it's not. No, nobody. That thing I was telling you about earlier, nobody knows about that. You're the only person I've spoken to about that.
I assume that about everything. I assume that everything is going in the vault.
Whenever I'm talking to you, it's like I have to rant about this thing that every person, no one can hear. Nobody can hear ever.
That's why I didn't just blurt it out.
No.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny though.
It is. I can't help it. It's the
Kim's
ADHD.
in on the joke and yeah, Kim's in on the joke and doesn't even realise it.
No, he doesn't.
No reference
There's
to anything.
secrets?
I can just
What?
make a joke.
Not from you guys, Kat. No, I was just talking earlier about the fact that I managed to upset people with my disabilities a lot. And missing chat is one of the things.
Because how dare you? As people should be upset by your disabilities.
It is quite frustrating walking through the world as a disabled person who doesn't present as disabled. And I think that's something that a lot of people, even in this chat, can relate to. And actually, do you know what? On point with what we're talking about today, because one of our characters today had an invisible disability, which has obviously very greatly impacted him. And the fact that it wasn't recognised led to a lot of issues for him, unfortunately. And it's true though that if you've got nothing like not presenting, but if you present as someone who, and again, I always feel really awkward saying this, but I know it's true. Like I just feel awkward saying it. I'm moderately attractive. Like I'm not an unattractive person. I'm well spoken. I'm white, presenting. I'm articulate. Of course, people look at me and they're not going to assume that there's anything wrong, quote unquote wrong. But there is. Like I do struggle with stuff, and it should be okay for me to not be 100% all the time. But because of how I look, people aren't okay with that. When I slip up, people react so much worse than when people who, clearly present as disabled do. Like I get the reaction I get when I slip up is so much different to what people who,
and there's a whole other tangent that we could go on. There's a whole other tangent that we could go on, which we won't. We've got to stay on topic. But there's a whole other tangent that we could go on based on that, which is that when people put that kind of expectation on people who don't present as having a disability, it comes back to capitalism, as everything does.
Doesn't it?
Because
doesn't it?
It does, because it's just this culture in society of like no one can make a mistake, because if you won't even allow someone who's got a disability that justifies said mistake to make a fucking mistake, no one who's normal can make a fucking mistake, and anyone should be able to make mistakes,
Absolutely.
Well, within reason, obviously, but you know what I'm saying.
Capitalism is the root of all evil. That's the take of the chat. Yes, Kim.
It literally
comes back to capitalism.
It's the take of
carrying
everything.
things. Man carrying things did a video the other day that was like every video essay will have these 5 words, and the first one was capitalism. Yep. Capitalism. All right, I'm going to do my code.
Way to link anything back.
Yes, everything, anything and everything. The other annoying thing is that I can't have the QR code up on the screen on this one because we're not doing through Streamlabs today. So guys, don't forget, if the link pops up in the chat while we're busy, remember to send it to somebody. Send it to anybody. Send it to whoever you can think of, because the QR code's on the screen. I'm not going to be remembering as much because we're recording podcasts, but okay, now. Let's go. Outfit check. Right, no. Outfit check. Let's just tuck my pants. Let's tuck my tummy into my sweatpants. It's fine. So
we can't see your tummy anyway, but
no. So today on the podcast, we are going all the way back to Federation, to an incident that has become known as the Hopetown Blunder.
The Hopetown
Blunder. Very interesting name for this incident. Now, you two, you need to either go outside with that or go back into the bedroom. My bedroom. Off you go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Also, before you go back in your podcast voice, you said you were going to have a cone too before. Yeah, okay, cool. I was just going to remind you so that you don't. Because you went full into script and I was like, hang on, wait. You said you were going to have a cone first. Yes, there's the GoFundMe link, everyone. Chat, there you go. Oh, you are on TikTok. All right, I'm going to go on my TikTok as well. Hang on.
I won't be for long.
No, and I'm not going to interact. I'm just going to put up.
Just advertising.
I'm just going to put it up as it's like promo. Yeah. 2 girls, 1 garbage can recording.
Yeah.
Live recording. Oh my God, are you right?
I got TikTok, we chat. Yeah. Of course I'm all right. I'm wonderful. We're talking about the Hopetown Blender today. It's fantastic. It's so exciting.
Fantastic.
Now, have you ever heard of the Hopetown Blunder before?
I think I have, but for the sake of the audience, fill me in. What was that sound? Was that your grinder?
Yes, that was my little grinder.
Okay, cool.
That was my little grinder. Am I
live?
Am I allowed to invite you? No?
Who?
Oh, doesn't matter. Anyway.
All right. To TikTok.
So, poor Hopetown. Honestly, other than being named after, a town in the middle of nowhere out here that's known for digging coal out of the ground and meth, Hopetown doesn't have his name on a lot of things, but he's got his name on this blunder that is associated with the Federation of Australia.
Which is a blunder in itself.
I was muted then. Could anyone hear me?
Oh, I could hear you.
You could hear me even though I was muted?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Where is my mic? Where is my mic coming from? Where is... Have you got the
Kim
right
said
mic?
they could hear you on TikTok.
Oh, okay. So we're not using the right mic.
Oh my God, fuck our lives. So nothing that we just did recorded?
No, it'll be fine because it did still record the audio, but it just won't have recorded the good quality audio. How's that? Do I sound better now? It's coming out of the right,
it sounds
the correct
clearer.
mic. Yeah. So that it will still record it. It just won't be as clear.
Okay.
Yes. Cool. Excellent. So poor Hopetown. Honestly, poor Hopetown, because as soon as these kids stop with the clattering and the banging in the background, how good you aren't coughing as much. No, because I've been dealing with my asthma. The asthmatic who smokes. But I got a new inhaler the other day, and I've actually been using my medication appropriately. And so, yeah, I have not been struggling anywhere near as much with my coughing. Yeah, very strange. Very strange that. Oh, for the love of God.
Oh, my God. TikTok, while we're muted on here, you are witnessing a live recording of the 2 Girls, 1 Garbage Can, 2 Girls, 1 Garbage Can podcast.
I was going to say, is there, what have you dropped? She's got a huge smile on her face, so she's obviously not worried about getting in trouble. Knocked off the pot over the ventilator. Okay, can you guys please just get out of here? Like, is there one night a week that we could record?
Yeah, we could. I would just need to coordinate and let my assistant know so that they're not working at the same time.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
We can make it work.
It's just at the moment with school holidays, obviously. It's
Oh yeah.
Oh, come on, you two. We don't have much time, and we've got a lot to do, and you're very much like we could be gone for hours now. You cannot drag this out anymore. Get a move on. Yeah. Good. Charlotte, come on. Make sure you shut the bedroom door. The thing is, they were outside earlier, and I was like, great, awesome, amazing. And then, no, they came inside. As soon as I start recording, they're like, we're going to come inside and start cooking.
Yeah.
Shut the door. There we go. Okay. Making toast, chat. Making toast. Don't forget you might want a tea. I have got my very weak coffee here.
And I have my energy drink that no one's going to judge me for.
No, no one's going to judge you. Of course, not going to judge you. All right. So we are going to have to cut out so much of that. So I actually might just start again so that I can just forget all of it and just,
start fresh.
Ooh, yeah, start fresh. Start fresh. Welcome back to the podcast. Oh, sorry. No, wait. How do we start it?
Welcome to Two Girls, One Garbage Can, where we discuss the garbage can that is our politics, our political system. I fucked it up.
The politics of Australia. Yeah. Absolutely. That's the one. Take two. Okay. Something like that. Okay, let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, Two Girls, One Garbage Can, where we discuss the garbage can state of Australian politics, our political system, right from the beginning down to today. And absolutely nothing is not up for discussion. And we try and make sense of the senselessness of it all. I am your host, Tamara.
And I am your host, Rachel. And we will be making what sense can be made of the Australian political system.
If there's any sense to be made, we are the girls to make the sense of it. So yes, the garbage can system, that is Australia's political system, started out that way right from the get-go. Right from the very, very beginning, it was a schmozzle and a mess. And today we'll be discussing that incident in what has become known as the Hopetoun incident. What's it called? The Hopetoun.
The blunder. The Hopetoun blunder.
What's called the Hopetoun blunder. Yes, it's a very, very emotive language. They're not backward in coming forward with this one for poor Hopetoun. Now, you got to feel sorry. Let's set the stage a little bit for our poor Hopetoun, because Hopetoun was really just a poor, confused little rich boy. He was just a poor little rich boy, had no clue what he was doing. Yeah,
not many of them do.
This is the problem in Australian politics. We have too many little rich boys with no idea, being given too much responsibility, and it shouldn't happen. This is not fair on them. It's not fair. So poor Hopetoun.
No.
He had no clue what he was doing, rocked up here as the first Governor-General of Australia. Now, many attempts. There had been many different conversations, referendums on whether or not we should federate. The decision had been made to federate. Hopetoun had been to Australia previously, many years prior, but he hadn't been back in quite some time. This conversation had been going on for a long time in the background meanwhile. But he gets sent over as Australia's first Governor-General, a great honour. And his very first job upon arriving is to pick the guy who was going to be in charge of the country, our first Prime Minister.
It's a big job for a little rich boy.
Yeah, big job for a scared little rich boy who's got no fucking clue what he's doing. That's for sure. Now, it is, let's be honest, this was the person who was going to be in charge for 3 months. 3 months to be clear. It's not the end of the world. And honestly, this just goes to show how well these little rich boys are able to fuck things up. Just how monumentally they're able to do it. Such a short amount of time. He arrived 2 weeks before the decision had to be made. He was here for 2 weeks. He was only going to apply for 3 months. And in that time, he managed to create one of the most, an international incident. International
blunder.
International blunder, yes. Okay. So there was going to be an election in March, but as federation was going to occur on the 1st of January 1901, someone needed to be in charge for a little bit before that election had happened. Mm-hmm. In my mind, I find it really odd that we couldn't just make those two things coincide, or perhaps have the election first. The Crown really big on that whole January 1, our calendar, our dates, our...
Yeah.
Oh, we got to have it on. Doesn't matter.
How would we remember if it wasn't on the 1st of January? How would we remember when it occurred?
We don't celebrate it on that day, do we?
Exactly. We don't know. That's what I was about to say. We don't celebrate it 25 days. We've got public holidays. Exactly. Yes.
25 days after that date, we have a public holiday to remember it, to remind us of that date. And it's not even the 3 months later when we actually had the election either. That's the other thing. It could be on the day when we had the actual election, our first election as a people, that, you know, not everyone got to be involved in.
Yeah, well,
obviously, not all
no.
of us.
Exactly.
It's always, whenever anyone asks me how Indigenous am I always say I'm Indigenous enough that I wouldn't have been able to vote in our first election.
Yeah.
How's that? How's that for how Indigenous I am?
Is that enough for you?
Yeah. Got enough blood quantum in there for you? Like, okay. Okay.
Is that a high enough percentage?
Yeah. Just a couple of drops more and maybe they'd chuck me in jail. Hey. That's what they're really asking. Is it enough? Is it enough that we can chuck you in jail today, or have you got enough privilege that you'd get out? Like, that's what we want to know. How Indigenous are you? That's what that question means. Now, look, this was a big decision, but luckily, Hopeton had a few options. There were a few different candidates that had been that were being sort of thought of as being ideal candidates, but as he really knew nothing about the place he'd found himself in, he basically just picked a guy. Put a pin in that. Put a pin in that. He didn't just pick a guy. That's not really what happened. There was precedent for what he did. But no, I'm not white passing. I'm white presenting. Just going to clarify that comment. Those are two different things. I'm white presenting. I'm very, very openly and publicly proud of my Indigenous heritage, which is not what white passing is. White passing is people who try to pass as white in order to hide their identity. That is not me. I'm white presenting. I present as white, but I do not try to pass for white. They are two different things. Just clarify that quickly for the chat.
Good to clarify that. Yeah.
Good to clarify. Yeah. Going back to ignoring the chat. Ignoring you all. So no, I'm going to put a pin in that because he didn't just pick a guy. There was precedent for what he was doing. But as far as everyone watching was concerned, this seemed really random. It didn't seem like the right way to go about it. But again, put a pin in that because there's a bit of speculation about why. Yeah, pin is put. Okay. I also feel like the irony of the reaction of these guys having a tanty because of who he chose is very ironic. Meanwhile, you know, mob are just sort of side-eyeing these colonists who, you know, they go on about us about wanting things to be changed or like not being happy about things happening. And meanwhile, these guys had a full-blown fucking tant in an international incident because he picked the wrong guy to be in charge for 3 fucking months.
For 3 months, yeah.
For 3 fucking months. They were just like, you did tell him to fuck off anyway. Okay. So Hopeton's options included Sir William Lynn, who had been the recently become Premier of New South Wales. We're going to talk a little bit about him and his background. Alfred Deakin, who was a prominent member of Parliament and also had been a prominent member of the Federation movement. George Reid, who had been the previous New South Wales Premier and who was very, very popular in the cabinet as well. And Sir Edmund Barton, who was considered by many across the country to be the father of the Federation and it was a lot of people's sort of first choice. They thought of him as the first option. But at this particular point in time, he didn't hold an office.
Just a little...
Yeah.
A little bit of a problem.
A little bit of a problem. I mean, we might think it was a problem. They did not think it was a problem.
No.
So,
yes, true.
Now, officially, this decision has been left up to Hopeton, okay? But the British office, and no doubt those who were gathered, expected a particular outcome. And so when they didn't get that outcome, there was mass furore over the whole thing. People were not happy about this at all. And the person he picked actually received a call from the Home Affairs Office in the UK telling him to back the fuck down and renounce, say he wasn't taking the job because they were so fucking unhappy with the decision. They called him and were just like, you are resigning.
Say no.
Say no.
Don't you dare do it. Don't you dare do it.
It reminds me of that John Green where he's like, he emailed all his mates being like, who wants to go and see a movie, including the girl he had an interest in. And then he emailed all of his mates and said, not you.
Yeah. Don't you dare say yes.
Don't you dare say yes. And now he's married to her, so it all worked out okay.
Perfect. If only things turned out as well for Australia.
If only. And now we're going to learn a little bit about these men who were up there as the options, who had been put forward as the selection.
There's nothing I love more than learning about men.
Oh, nothing I love more about learning about tantruming, infighting, bickering men.
Yes.
And if anybody wants to talk about infighting and bickering on the left, just remember that none of these guys are on the left of anything. Okay.
No.
As progressive as some of their ideals were, definitely not what we would consider left wing today. Okay.
No.
So even though there was precedent for the selection that the Governor General chose, their norms have been a massive part of our political processes since Federation, since the very, very beginning, which is why when things don't adhere to the norms we expect, people react so badly as they did in this case, because things that are sort of assumed that are going to happen when they don't go that way, even though there's no rule, there's no legislation. And this is why when people have tantrums like the law is the law and you're just going to follow the law, so much more of the way our society operates on norms. Laws are there specifically to control and punish people who aren't in with the knowledge of the know, in the know of what the norms are,
Yeah.
So it's always very interesting to me when someone breaks a norm and then you see all fucking hell break loose.
Yes. And to bring it into a modern context, something that happened recently in politics where someone broke the norm, but something that's not technically a law, crossing the floor during a vote in Parliament and now becoming suspended from the political party which you represent. Yeah, which we can talk more about at a later time.
Yeah, because you're being punished for breaking a norm, even though there is no rule saying that you can't do that. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. But we're going to punish you anyway.
Saying that you have to be punished for doing it. Yeah, exactly.
No. And it's absolutely stupid of them to do it. But how dare you break our norms, because our precious little norms. What are we going to do without our precious little norms? Yeah. The neurotypicals don't know what to do without their norms. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. We got to be normies.
So now, remember again, going back to what we were saying before, this new role would only be temporary as the new government would be elected in March of that year. So no doubt Hopetoun is assuming that whoever he is going to pick, while there is going to be a lot of weight in that decision, that the options that are presented to him are all good options for someone to be in charge of the country for 3 months. Well, some options do look better than others, certainly, and we're going to get into that. But we're first going to discuss sort of the two front runners, and I would consider the two front runners for very different reasons. So the first is Sir William Lynn. Now, the reason Sir William Lynn was sort of considered at all was because there was precedent for his appointment. So William Lynn was the newly elected Premier of New South Wales, and when Canada had become a federation a while prior, the Premier of the largest county or the largest, what's it called?
What do they call it in Canada? Province? No.
Province.
What did they call it? Was it province or province?
I just keep calling them settlements because they're all colonizers, so they're all settlements anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So the elected leader of the largest province became the Prime Minister at Federation, and then they had election to elect a new cabinet themselves. So going by that precedent, Sir Hopetoun looked to Sir William Lynn as his first option. He had been a part, however, the problem with Lynn was that he had been a part of the anti-federation movement. So he wasn't considered a good choice by many, considering that he hadn't been full bottle on federation. However, he had been anti-federation on the grounds that he felt that the Constitution wasn't democratic. Or it wasn't democratic enough. And it's still, this made him an unpopular choice. However, and this is one of the reasons why it's the garbage can state of politics. And when we talk about the garbage can political in policy, it's the idea that everything gets shoved in this garbage can, it gets shaken up, and who the fuck knows what's going to come out the other side half the time. And it's literally a real theory that we have to study.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah. because this guy had all of the right policies to be our first prime minister. He was full bottle. He believed that everyone should attend school. It should be free and compulsory from like K right through to high school. He wanted it to be freely available and compulsory so that everyone would attend. He didn't think that the Constitution was democratic enough. He felt particularly about the weighting in the Senate, the fact that there would be the same representatives from each state, regardless of the population levels in those states. He felt like that was going to lead to an unfair weighting of certain people's views. He was a protectionist. Now, not all of these men, are protectionists. Absolutely not. But both of the two main candidates were both protectionists, and this was one of the main reasons and the main grounds for federation. So Lynn believed in federation on the grounds of protectionism, which was the idea that we needed to have protective tariffs to protect our industry, to make imports more expensive, and also so the government, that money coming in is what the government can use to do what it needs to do. Because at this point, we didn't have an income tax, there was no land tax. So it was very much just like tariffs are how we make all of our money. So the protectionists wanted to protect the Australian people by increasing tariffs, protecting Australian industry. And Lynn was all on board with that. And so he was on board with the idea of federation. It was just that he felt like the Constitution needed a lot more work. He was not happy with how it had come out in the wash on the balance.
How it had come out the other end of the garbage can.
Yes, exactly. How do I make what I want to happen come out the other end of this garbage can? This is a conversation we've literally been having for centuries, people. Literally for centuries. So let's learn a little bit more about Sir William Lynn, the man who was one of our options for Prime Minister. He was born on the 6th of April, 1844, and was the eldest son of a farmer. And his father then went on to become a member of the Tasmanian House of Assembly. So he was involved in politics from a very, very early age. He was born in Van Diemen's Land, as it was then called, Tasmania, so Australian from the get-go. And actually his mother was also Australian born. So he is one of the first people who can claim to be like multi-generational Australian.
Right.
Yeah, very not very common at all at the time. Most of the other people
100%.
listed are first generation. They're the first generation to be born here.
Yeah.
He was described as an inventive child and a very helpful handyman. Yes. One story tells an inventive child. Now
sounds like he might have been neurodivergent, perhaps.
Sounds like a euphemism or two. One story tells of how he built a chariot using an old pram, tying it to 2 goats. It didn't go well. It didn't go well. I don't know if anyone's ever tried to use goats to do anything.
Pull a chariot before.
They're not very good at following directions. They tend to just do whatever the fuck they want. And having 2 of them tied to the one chariot,
rip the chariot right in half.
Hey, yeah, but at least, again, as the chat has pointed out, at least he chose goats and not oppressed peoples to pull his chariot. Yes. But yeah, the two goat chariot. Which I think says a lot about him, as well as that, you know, people describe him as being a good sport. He played to win, but didn't wail if he lost, was a quote that was given about him. He was the kind of person who had the attitude, the can-do attitude and the tenacity of someone who wouldn't give up, was very driven, again, very, very inventive. And he did have, like, he won himself quite a lot of supporters throughout his career as a result of his personality. Really, he was a
bit of a charismatic man.
Yeah, and he's won a few fans. He's won a few fans throughout history as well. People looking into his story, lamenting the way things would go for him. But nevertheless, let's continue on. So he moved around a bit in his 20s, up to the north end of Australia, up to Brisbane, before deciding that the weather was just far, far too warm for him up that way. And he settled in the Albury region. He leased a sheep run with his wife, Martha, Patty Shaw. So her name was Martha. Sorry. He leased a sheep run with his wife, Martha, Patty Shaw. She went by Patty her whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1880, he entered the New South Wales Parliament as a member of the Protectionist Party, the newly formed Protectionist Party. Now, lines had sort of been forming. The different parties at this point were sort of separating into these protectionists versus free traders. The free trade movement was sort of the other side of the aisle. But the protectionists were definitely thought of as being the more liberally minded, more progressive sorts in the Parliament of the time.
At the time, yes.
At the time, yeah. You got to turn the other way. You're not facing me.
Oh my God!
Sorry.
I thought, because that's what way it is on the screen, and I thought I was facing you this whole fucking time. Fuck my life.
No.
And I even thought, no, she would have told me if I was facing the wrong way. Oh well, it's fine.
I literally thought to myself, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I kept thinking it doesn't matter.
And then it was bothering you too much. And I thought I was doing so good. Like you were looking across, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I'm looking right at her, and I'm looking right at her.
I'm looking at her. She's looking at me.
Because I have the Twitch chat on that side, so I was like, if I look at the Twitch chat on that side, it'll keep my eyes off to the side where they're supposed to be. And I was doing it the wrong way. Fuck my life. Wait, I've got to switch them around now. So I can. That's so funny. I can't believe we were both thinking about it.
This is the type of podcast. Yeah.
Oh
the
my
wrong
God.
way. Just
It's
a different
fine.
way.
Compared to the fact that we had no fucking sound earlier, this is fine.
I know, and we didn't even realise.
It's okay.
We're having a great merry old time recording all our lovely jokes. Cameron, 2, 3.
We made so many good jokes.
So many good jokes.
Okay,
you guys can get to hear them. Very disappointing.
I know. And yes, TikTok, I'm filming a podcast. That's why you can only hear one side. But this is like an exclusive live recording. If you want to hear both sides of the podcast, then you have to listen to the podcast when it comes out.
Yeah. You have to listen to the podcast.
But I'm on here to script the podcast for you. So
yes,
if you're enjoying it down there.
Yeah.
That's why I'm ignoring the chat too, by the way.
So next week it's your turn to come up with a bullshit story about the bullshit state of our bullshit politics.
Yeah.
But I was also going to say we should also be in charge of editing our own episodes too. So
okay, we can do that. You just have to like help me know how to do it.
Yeah. Oh
but
no,
I'll
absolutely help you edit. I'm just not going to leave you to edit my rambling shit.
Oh, okay.
my chat is rubbish. No. Okay, so
oh my God, she's talking back because I addressed TikTok. Kim's like, no, fuck you, TikTok. We hate you.
Fuck TikTok. Fuck TikTok chat. We do hate TikTok. So I actually sent through to my friends, I have got a strike on my account, on my TikTok account. And the 2 comments that have led to the strike, one of them is me saying when someone said, what the fuck's that thing through your nose? Like you look like a pig. I said, it's my dickhead detection device. It has 100% accuracy. That got me a strike. So he's calling, like he's coming in with that shit, but me responding with that gets me a strike. The other one, fuckhead Bobo gets on my page and says that I'm an unintelligent schizo who like rambling, unintelligent, like ableism, like misogyny, ableism in his comment. I responded and said, are you insulting? Like, are you just going straight to like insults and bullshit because you don't have the intellect to engage with this conversation? Like, you don't have the education. Sorry, I didn't say intellect. I said, it's because you don't have the education to engage in this conversation on an intellectual level. Like I said, is it because you don't have the education to engage with this on an intellectual level? And that got me a strike. And I appealed it, and they said, nope. They are. It is literally because of the Palestine stuff. They are trying to get me off.
Banned.
They're trying to get me off. Yeah, it is brilliant. It is brilliant. It's my dickhead detection device with 100% accuracy. 100% accuracy. Misogynists, like right-wing assholes, racists, bigots. I have not had to deal with any of them hitting on me since I got this thing in my nose. They were all hitting on me constantly before, and now they've all stopped. They've all stopped since I got my nose ring. It's the best decision I ever made.
Facial piercings?
Yeah, facial piercings will keep the racists
like dyeing
away.
your hair. Yeah, dyeing your hair another color will also get rid of the right wing. I'm
dyeing my hair bright red. I'm dyeing my hair bright red.
They'll love that. They'll love that.
I'm so excited because I usually wear my green shirt, so I'm going to dye my hair bright red with my big nose here. This is what I'm doing. They won't hit on you because of what? Tree. What are they thinking? Yeah, they don't. They do because if you just have opinions about it, right? They assume that if you have an opinion about, so this is the thing with these misogynistic right-wing dickheads. They assume that your opinions, they can change your opinions. They can change your perspective, that they're going to it doesn't matter what you think. You're going to think what I think by the end of, because that's how I work in relationships.
Because they're so smart, and they just have all the
answers. Exactly. So when you just have an opinion on something, they're like, because I say it to people all the time. I'm like, and they think to themselves, oh, that's fine. I'll get her to change her mind. I'll get her to see things my way eventually. But as soon as you do something like commit with a nose ring in your pierce, as soon as you commit and do something like pierce your nose, they're like, no, it's too far gone. There's a hole in your face now. I can't fix that. Like, you're too far gone.
Literally. I know. It's fucking wild.
He
said, a guy asked me if my hair was blue this morning, and it's crazy how often you see like, oh, you're one of those blue-haired they them
I know
used as like an insult online and as like a marker of like unintelligence according to these people, and it's like,
I know,
what the fuck is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you people? And how do you not realize that? Like, I have said this so many times too. Like, I've been doing so many videos lately on protest, on how to protest, on being safe while protesting, on why we protest. All these people in my comments going, oh yeah, but you're doing more harm than good. You're driving more people away from your cause. People don't like it because you're doing this and the other. And I keep responding to them and being like, do you not realize that this has been said about every protest movement throughout history? None of them were popular at their time. None of them were well liked. None of them had a majority of public support, or they wouldn't have needed to protest.
Exactly. That's the key fundamental basis of a protest, is that it is not the norm and it is not what the majority of people want, which is why
we have
this is action that needs to be taken.
Exactly. So I keep saying to people, all you're doing by arguing with these protesters and by denouncing the protests, all you're doing is showing that you are on the wrong side of history, because the same thing has happened again and again and again throughout history. And the people decrying the protesters, whinging about having their traffic blocked, whinging about buildings getting broken, whinging about being late for work. Every single fucking time, they are on the wrong side of history. Every fucking time. It's the ones 100%. Who are willing to throw themselves down in front of horses that win the vote. The ones who are willing to do fucking taekwondo and blow up buildings who win the vote. Not the ones who sit back quietly and go, it'd be really nice if you could like respect my human rights at some point. Hi. Those rights you promised you were going to give me anyway, that I'm now having to protest for because you didn't.
And it's like the quote that's going around, and I honestly can't think of the quote like exactly off the top of my head, but you probably would have seen it. But the quote is about, there's a specific quote, but obviously it's just like a, not theory, but it's just a thing that people are noticing as a pattern of behavior in history, is that like if you find yourself on the opposite side of a student movement,
you are on the wrong side of history.
You're on the wrong side of history. And it is
100%
true throughout history with every protest movement that has ever occurred, pretty much.
And yet we still have people whinging about the fact that the universities are turning all of our students into Marxism. Well, then maybe Marxism is the right side of history and we should be doing more Marxism, you dumb fucks.
Yeah, maybe that's telling you something, for fuck's sake, literally.
Yes, obviously. All right, I'm going to do another comb quickly before we get back into it. We're going to get back into it, but
sounds good. Ad break.
I was going to say that probably wasn't a good spot to leave it, to be honest, what we were talking about, but we stopped anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Like it's regardless.
No. And we can
but we were
clip
talking.
It, so it's fine.
We can clip. Yeah. So I did say that that this is the good thing as well. We're talking about, because we're talking about radical people and like left wing. Our boy William Lynn, Sir William Lynn, he was definitely on the more radical side of the progressives. He was thought of as being so. I'll get to it in a second. But that is actually why his party, the Protectionists, ended up taking the parliament in New South Wales, was because of him and his progressive ideas. So again, more reasons that he would have been a good pick, possibly.
Yeah. Even for the caretaker 3-month job.
For 3 months. Yeah. Lots of reasons. He might have been a good. I haven't actually told you who ended up getting picked yet, but I'm guessing everyone knows already. But I'm hoping that people don't look it up so that they get to be surprised at the end when I tell
they
them
get to be part of the journey.
Yeah, exactly. It's a journey of discovery. Pretend that you're there at the time, and we're trying to figure out who it's going to be. Ooh. All right,
we're waiting for the results.
Yes, waiting for the election results. By the way, have I shown you my birthday present?
Yes, you have. It's very cool.
It's so cool. It's my favorite birthday present I ever got.
Very
the kids
cute.
got it for me for my birthday.
Aww.
It's my favorite. So I'm just going to do another comb quickly, and then we're going to get back on to talking about this left-wing progressive government.
Yes, left-wing.
Yeah, as left-wing as it can be. He wanted good things. He liked good policies, but okay.
We're
going to talk about his reputation as a politician, though. Remind me when we get back. That's where we're up to.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you a story while you're doing that.
Okay.
Speaking of the being along for the journey of discovery, I literally got so much fucking hate on my second most recent video. I ended up literally, and people were calling me out for it, and I was like, I don't give a shit. I ended up deleting all of the comments and blocking a bunch of people because I was doing the same thing in one of my videos where I was doing which I do in all of my videos. All of my videos are about the same length, they're on the longer side. I do a bit of a build up, I always save the worst thing about a listing for last, or make the people wait to actually get to the point. And the reason that I do that is because usually I'll put actual useful information in the video about tenancy law engagement. Or
and the longer people stay on the video, the more it gets pushed in the more it gets pushed in the algorithm. There's 100 fucking reasons to do it. There's 100 fucking reasons to do it, and then it makes sense. But
I put information at the beginning about tenancy law, or about the morals and ethics of why our fucking housing system is fucked and all of that shit. And I do that at the beginning and make people wait to see the good part of the listing, so they listen to the actual important shit that we're trying to teach people here, instead of, because otherwise they'll just click away and they won't listen to that information. And I got so much fucking hate because I didn't show this room the balcony room of the high rise until 3 minutes into the video. 3 minutes on 2 times speed is a minute and a half. It's not that fucking long. And I don't need that,
but
it's my video. I'll do what I want. Literally.
And you know what? They're annoyed because they had to watch 3 minutes. I need you to watch 3 minutes so that TikTok will push my videos out into the algorithm.
Yeah.
I am trying to do a job here. I'm trying to people. I'm not here. I am providing a service to you that you are getting for free.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I am compensated is with the followers and the opportunities that come from that, and the likes and the algorithm. But to get that, I have to frame my videos. I have to do the work in a certain way. If it was just fuck off.
And I said
go
to
create
people,
your own fucking content.
A lot of people
go create your own fucking content.
Some people came in, right, and they were like, maybe you should listen to all of the comments that you're getting from people telling you that this video was too long. And I was like, babe, I've got 80,000 people on my fucking account that are here because of the way that I make my fucking videos. So why should I give a shit what you...
And even if fucking half of them are hate followers, because
I
so
don't
many
care.
of them are.
They're here anyway, and maybe we'll actually teach some of them something.
And the people who are telling me that don't know. Okay, from now on,
they don't even follow me half the time.
Don't offer anyone any fucking advice if you don't understand first why they're doing what they're doing. If you don't understand why what someone's doing what they're doing, don't offer them any fucking advice. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You don't even understand why they're doing what they're doing. Because you are doing that for a reason. And all of their reasoning, every single reason they give you to give it earlier is so that they can click off the video sooner, which is counter to your needs as the creator. Like, shut
And
the
that's
fuck
the
up.
thing too.
Shut the fuck
If
up.
I see a video that I don't want to watch because it's too long or whatever, I simply just scroll to the next fucking video.
Yeah.
I don't think, you know
Yeah.
what, I need to give this creator my unsolicited advice of how they should run their fucking account that I don't even fucking follow. Like, who the fuck do you think you are to, like, fucking come on here and tell
See,
me
this
how I
is-
should run my fucking account?
Can you guys take it from the top? I missed the first bit.
Shut
Yeah.
up. No.
Let's start from the beginning, shall we? Let's know. I will say.
Yeah.
I will say though, we don't have that problem here in the Void. We definitely don't have that problem here in the Void. Most of the time, what I have is my followers jumping on my page, telling other people to fuck the fuck off. I had one of my followers was engaging in this back and forth with this person on in this post. I love it so much. He got a follow back for that one because it was fucking gold. He was going back and forward with this person on this post. And then this person like said to them, "You're so lame over there. You've got nothing better to do with your day than argue with me on my social media posts constantly." So then I jumped in and said, "Actually, this person's been a long time follower of mine, and they probably know I've made several videos in the past talking about how easy it is to hook some trolls in to like a back and forth and how it really helps to push my videos in the algorithm. So no, you got played like souls." And they liked the comment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, go my followers.
I love it when they do that. And there was so many people
so good.
mine who jumped in there and they were like, actually, I love her videos. And even though I don't have a long attention span, I enjoy the build up that she gives us when it's, you know, and all of that. And I was like, yeah, fuck you all. I was so fucking pissed off. And then I started deleting some of the comments because it was just like pissing me off. And I was like, no.
People who piss me off from now on, I'm just blocking them.
Yeah. I do not hold back on the block button. I'm just like, bye. And especially if I check their profile and they don't even follow my account, I'm like, well, then why are you? You don't mean it to me. And if you hate me and my content so much, I'll fix the problem for you. You're blocked. You're never going to fucking see me again. So fuck off.
So many of them follow me though. So many of my haters follow me. They follow me so they can get my content so that they can hate on me. They just love to come and like. So I
love it when
unfollow. Like I remove them as a follower.
Remove them as a follower. Yeah.
Yeah. When they comment and they go, "Why do I see so much of you whinging all the fucking time?" And I'm like, I've just removed you as a follower so that hopefully you'll see less of me from now on.
Yeah. I love
because
it
you were following me. Stupid.
They try to be assholes and they go, "Why is this stupid bitch coming up on my For You page? Why am I getting content like this on my For You page?" And I'm like, maybe because you're commenting on the videos, babe. Maybe that has something to do with it.
90% of the time, a follower jumps in, like someone jumps in and says that before I even have to. Someone else comments it before I even have to. It's so good.
They're like, well, you're here commenting.
Back to the podcast. Quick, I have to edit this one. Remember, I have to edit this one. Shh. Quick.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. I was just checking then if I'd done my cone. I was like, did I do it? Oh, treat them like intrusive thoughts. Yeah. I did. Yes. Okay.
Back on task.
So
back on task.
Back on task. So in 1880, he entered the New South Wales Parliament as a member of the Protectionist Party, and we were talking about the fact that this had kind of newly formed as a result of the tension between the Free Traders and the Protectionists. There were a few different parties at the time that had kind of merged into the Free Traders versus the Protectionists, with the Labor Party kind of bouncing between the two, depending on who was going to do the best thing for workers' rights.
Yeah.
Okay, kids, you need to close that and disappear. Off you go. Yep, off you go. Right as we start recording again, they come back in. Okay. But as I said, he was very much at the more radical end of the party, which did put him in favour with the Labor Party, which is why when he took over as the leader of the Protectionist Party, they then formed majority government because the Labor Party switched their support from the Free Trade Party, which was headed by George Reid, to the Protectionist Party being headed by William Lynn. I'm not sure how to say it. I didn't bother looking it up because he's a white man. So I was too busy looking up people's names that were more important to get the pronunciation right on.
Well, see how they like it. They pronounce our
See
shit
how
wrong
they
all the
like
time.
it. Yeah, I should try.
Yeah.
Do you know what? We should make it a rule in the podcast that you have to pronounce every white man's name
Incorrectly.
incorrectly. That's a
Yeah.
rule on the podcast, and it will get us
I
so
love
much
it.
engagement in the comments too, with people telling
Because
us,
people will have to tell us.
correcting
Yes,
our pronunciation. Okay, from now on, every white man's name has to be spelled
that's the
incorrectly.
rule.
Podcast law has to be said incorrectly,
Yep.
pronounced incorrectly.
Love
All
it.
right. So
I love
now
it.
I've got to look it up so I know how to say it incorrectly.
That's all right.
I'll just say
No,
Linny.
it's
I'll
not
call
about
him
whether
Linny
it's
because
correct
I
or
know it's not
incorrect.
Linny.
Yeah, the little pet names, or even just saying it however we feel like without bothering to confirm whether it's right or wrong. I feel like that's enough.
That's enough. Okay, Lynn. I'm going to call him Lynn. So Lynn was certainly at the more radical end of the spectrum. He was a skilled grassroots campaigner and had been an active member in his community in many different areas. I put down here like he was head of the cricket club, sheep club. I'm pretty sure it wasn't sheep club. I'm pretty sure it was like the association. It was some like I didn't bother writing it down, but it was some kind of association of sheep farmers that he was heading. Like he was big in the community.
He was big in the sheep community.
Big in that community, big in the cricket community. As a parliamentarian, he had a reputation for being a straight shooter with a short temper. Yeah, his approach to policy was often described as being like that of a bull in a china shop.
Oh.
It was theorised by his fellow parliamentarians that he knew every constituent in his electorate. And while he was described as one of the rudest parliamentary debaters, he was known to be amiable and approachable in private life. And this helped him hold his seat for 30 years, even at times when he was not aligned with any particular party. So he was very, very popular with the public. They loved him. A bit like our man Shorten. The people like him a lot more than his friends in Parliament do. And again, a lot like Shorten, he was a lot better in one-on-one negotiations than he was an orator. He was not a very good public speaker, not a very good orator, didn't do well on the communication front in terms of public speaking, but in private, between two people, was known to be very the opposite, in fact. And, I think that kind of says a lot to how much things have changed and how much they've stayed the same when you have a look at Shorten, the Prime Minister who never was. Also in that vein.
True.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister who never was.
He's the Prime Minister who never was.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't know, is it too early? Is it too late in the game to, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't give it away too soon. But Linny is also the Prime Minister who never was. So he, despite being what many would consider an optimal choice, and he was, in fact, Hopeton's choice, he was not the Crown's choice, and he was not the popular choice of the rest of the Parliament of the time.
Linny.
Poor Linny.
So it was a no-go for Linny.
It was a no-go for Linny, but Hopeton did select Linny. Hopeton offered Linny the job, and that was problematic because people, weren't too fond of that. It was
part of what contributed to the blunder.
This is what the blunder. This is, in fact, selecting Lynn is considered Hopeton's blunder. That is considered his. Yeah. So I always feel a little bit like I feel bad because listening to us talk about him, he does not at all seem like the kind of guy you'd think of as being a blunder to have selected, especially not when we consider the alternative, Sir Edmund Barton.
Yes, let's hear about him. Because on the surface, when you describe Linny the way that you described him, he does come off as the, even though by today's standards he would not be considered the more kind of progressive or left-wing man of the people, it comes off that way. The way that you describe him, he does sound like the more likable option.
Yes. Yeah, doesn't he? Especially when we start learning about the option everyone was surprised Hopeton didn't select, Sir Edmund Barton.
Yes. Let's hear about Sir Edmund
Eddie
Barton.
Barton,
Yes.
we'll call him.
Barty.
Sir Eddie Barton. Yes. So Edmund Barton. Now, as much as these two, as close as these two men do appear to be on the surface, they really are very, very different for all intents and purposes. So for as similar as they are also very not similar.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's important to remember that the Hopetoun. Oh, actually, no, sorry. I'll get into that bit later. I've got it in a couple of different locations because I was making notes in different places as I was learning different things, and I didn't amalgamate it all into one place as would have been the same thing to do because I have ADHD. So
yeah, of course.
That's not what we're doing.
To us. To us.
Yes, exactly. Now, on the surface, these two men looked very, very similar in terms of their upbringing, their class, like their social standing, that sort of thing. So Edmund Barton was born on the January the 18th, 1849 in Sydney, New South Wales. So also Australian born. And he was the son of a school teacher. His mother, Mary, was a school teacher, and his father was a farmer and also a statesman. So he, had that early introduction to policy as well. He became, he entered the New South Wales Legislative Assembly as the Speaker of the House at the age of 33, and he was the youngest Speaker of the House to ever serve anywhere at that time, at that age, to do that. So he was
don't
well
let anyone
liked
tell
by
you
his
that
fellow.
life's over in your 30s.
No. No, and he was so young to have done it at his 30s then too, as well. Now he there are a few differences. There are a few differences in that he was always well liked and supported by a party, but not always well liked and supported by the public, losing his seat several times over the years, but always having a place and home in the party that loved him and adored him. So quite opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of who was approving of him. To Linny. And, this is when we say it's the garbage can, it's because it's filled with garbage people, because they all preferred Sir Edmund Barton to, here we go. Now, like Lynn, Barton was considered quote unquote radicalism because he advocated for free secular education for every student and was anti the death penalty. So he also had some very progressive left-wing ideas. And I said in 1882 he became Speaker of the New South Wales Parliament at only 33 years of age, which was quite the achievement. However, he, unlike Lynn, who had this really great, opinion by his constituency, Barton had a reputation for being erratic, a drunk, a layabout. He was called one of the laziest men to ever serve any office anywhere.
Wow. Sounds like a few politicians from this day and age, doesn't it? It doesn't sound
I'm picturing
politicians from now.
I mean, the head of our what do you call it? The current leader of our, what party is it? Oh, Barnaby Joyce. Come on, Nationals. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's giving Barnaby Joyce, honestly. It's giving Barnaby Joyce.
It's giving Barnaby.
It's giving Barnaby, yeah. So the public and the press even didn't really have that great of an opinion of him. He was known to lose his money quite a lot. He became bankrupt. However, he was also known as the father of federation. He was the most fierce advocate for federation and he drafted the final Commonwealth Constitution Bill. He led the Federal Convention of 97 to 98 that drafted the final Commonwealth Constitution Bill. So he was really seen as being the father of federation, despite all of his other faults. And look, I had to go right back into Lynn's childhood to find a case of the possibly neurodivergent children learning a very serious lesson about making decisions rashly without considering them. This guy never seemed to learn that decision. However, It has been theorized by those who have studied him, including his great-grandson, who is a doctor of psychology, that Sir Edmund Barton was more than likely bipolar, given like the erratic behavior, swings in temperament up and down, the difficulty with managing
substance use.
Substance use, and the fact that he could go, there would be swings and days where he would go from presenting a great orator, presented really well, life of the party, everyone loved him, to vanishing and people being confused as to where he'd gone and what happened. Like his behavior.
Wow, that does not sound relatable whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I knew that was going to fucking happen. Fuck TikTok. Yeah. This is why I said TikTok's not going to last long, because I knew this was going to fucking happen.
What happened?
The stand. No, the stand has just fallen over, but I probably will get banned if I'm not careful.
I'm ignoring mine, but I can see in the chat now that people are asking what's going on, and I've got a follower in the chat who keeps telling everyone that they're watching my POV of
love our followers
recording a podcast. So yes, guys, we're recording a podcast. If you want to hear both sides of the podcast, you're going to have to listen to the podcast when it comes out. This is just a little sneak peek.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So,
so he was that people think he was bipolar.
Yes, so thank you. So that was the suspicion. That is the suspicion now of those who've looked back and examined him throughout time, is that he exhibits all of those same signs. And while they can't be comfortable diagnosing him, because you never want to diagnose someone who is not in front of you asking for a diagnosis, this is something that's been theorized as an explanation for a lot of this behavior. And I don't know, I think it is fun to do that with historical figures, especially when they have served such a prominent role in our history, and like they've got the reputation of this guy.
Our history as well.
So there are stories of him not being able to be found, and being found like drunk and like asleep in his office under his desk. Stories like there's all kinds of stories about this. Like, he's a mess, and yet Hopeton arrives in Australia, and 4 days after he arrived in Sydney, the Governor-General designates Lord Hopeton to gasps of astonishment.
Gasps of astonishment.
Named Lynn as the first Prime Minister.
Pearls clutched.
Pearls clutched. He named Lynn, the man loved by his constituency, and currently, and again, let's not forget the reason that he was currently serving as Premier of New South Wales was because of his policies had switched Labor's support from being, because again, minority governments have always been the best for Australia. The Labor Party switched their support from the Free Traders Party to the Protectionist Party when Lynn took over, because he was a lot more progressive and they could get a lot more progressive policies put through. So he was able to put through, because of his policy, he put through like the 8-hour work day. Sorry, my voice went up a lot there. But like the 8-hour work day, health benefits and sick days, all were put through under Lynn's government with Labor support. So he was, just imagine if we'd started out on that foot.
He was actually doing something productive for the people.
And people fucking loved him for it. People absolutely fucking loved him for it.
Rather than the drunkard who with erratic behavior.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And again, feel for the guy, but I don't think we should have people with unmedicated bipolar running high office today either. I feel for the guy if that is the case, but myself, I wouldn't suggest that my unmedicated ass should be running anything either.
I just don't think that we should have politicians in power based on the fact that we have pity for their possible
undiagnosed conditions. No,
yes.
True.
I don't think that that's a good enough reason to let them have control of the country.
No, definitely not.
Call us crazy, but I don't think that's a...
Call me yes, Hey. Sorry, they're down there. I'm recording the podcast, so I'm just trying to keep things quiet up this end. Thanks. Okay. Now, here is the interesting thing about this blunder, though, right? Okay. So 4 days after he arrived in Sydney, the Governor-General designate Lord Hopeton to gasp of astonishment to gasps of astonishment, named Lynn as the first Prime Minister. Lynn's opposition to federation was a major reason that he failed to attract fellow protectionists such as Edmund Barton and Charles Kingston, or any of the eminent Victorians such as Alfred Deakin and George Turner to his team. After tense negotiations and a please explain telegram from the British Colonel Secretary Joseph Chamberlain,
not a
Lynn
please
stood aside.
explain telegram.
Please explain telegram. So on Christmas Eve, and so then on Christmas Eve, Hopetoun named Edmund Barton as Prime Minister instead, 6 days before Federation was due to occur. Now, there is some speculation. Remember I said put a pin in that. There is some speculation as to Hopetoun's choosing of Lynn. Okay.
Really?
Because while we do, yes. So while we do understand 100% that it was a 3-month term, okay? He was going to be in charge for 3 fucking months.
Yeah.
Like there was going to be an election in March.
Caretaker role. A caretaker
exactly.
Role.
And we've been having our elections in March ever since, okay? Like
yes, because God forbid things change around here.
I mean, no, not on a federal level. On a federal level, we don't, but in WA we do. In WA we still have our elections in March. Yeah. Because WA is the state of wait a while. We'd never change over fucking here.
Yeah.
But let's remember, like for Hopetoun, he had only been here for 4 days, okay? And he had 2 weeks to make this decision. And he's presented with these 2 men who have very similar resumes, okay? Like as far as entering politics and, you know, I forgot to mention as well that Lynn had served as the Minister of Trade before he'd taken over as the leader of the Protectionist Party. So he'd specifically worked with Labor in that portfolio beforehand as well, which was another massive reason he had so much support from the common folk. But accounts vary as to whether this was just a result of Hopetoun naively appointing the premier of the most senior, largest state, as was the precedent set in the Canadian example, or in which case it would be seen as him having made a courtesy offer to Lynn that by rights, by norms, Lynn should have turned down if that was the case, if it was a courtesy offer. Which people believe prior that the people theorize that prior to even making this offer to Lynn, Hopetoun was under the impression that Lynn would turn it down. Lynn had insinuated that he wouldn't accept it if the offer had been made to him.
Right.
So that is that some people theorize that this was a bit of a snaky move on Lynn's part, a little bit like Shorten, known for being a bit of a snake at times. In the background.
I love that there's always a parallel to a modern figure.
Yes. Or on the other hand, it could also be Lynn persuading him of his merits because he did have a very similar resume to Barton, and he was well liked by the people and had the support of the party that was the major swing decider as well for not just in New South Wales but also Victoria. But in Victoria, there was a lot of support for Lynn in the Labor movement because he had done so much work again previously for the movement. Yeah. So there was also the idea that perhaps Lynn had just persuaded him of his merits. Okay, they're making a lot of. I'm just trying to. Can you hear them at all?
Not really, no. I can hear them talking when they came out and just talk to you, but I can't hear them doing shit in the background.
Okay.
I mean, I can hear them now.
Where are you guys? Guys, what are you doing? Okay. And then do you want to go down, go back outside?
So that you don't feel as stressed, I had an idea because I just noticed the time as well. If we have to cut where we are, and what we could do, I reckon, is if we run out of time, we can sort of do like a halfway
part one
outro.
and part two.
Yeah, and then do the other half another time this week. So we're still doing it this week. And then that also breaks up the editing into 2 parts because say we filmed the other part on Friday.
There isn't much more to go. I would say we're well over halfway through. We're like 3/4 of the way through now. Yeah. Part one, the plans.
I just didn't want you to be stressed.
No, I'm not stressed. The kids are fine. It's just that their dad's come home to visit them because it's school holidays and he's decided that he's going to bring them out here and make noise. And I'm
oh, lovely. Yeah, that's great for you. I love that for you. Oh no. Guys, I'm doing a podcast. Thanks, Jimmy, for letting everyone know. And it's with, if you guys follow our Tamara vs. the Void on TikTok.
Kim, that's true too. People can go to where the magic actually happens. Oh, sorry. Didn't realize. That's true too, Kim. People can go to magic actually happens. The muted hand gesture, yeah.
Yes, yep. I feel ya. So, yeah, it's fine. If we need to, we can just like do, or we can fucking not even tell anyone and put the same clothes back on and finish it if we run out of time. It's fine. And no one will even know.
We won't even tell them it's fine. Okay. But as I said, we are quite close to the end here anyway. It's not,
okay,
we're not too much away. So, okay.
Nice. We're doing well. I'm proud of us.
We are. All right. So, so people aren't sure whether this was Lynn persuading him of his merits and the reason that he should. Actually, no, the reason I had to stop was because of the noise. So I do have to stop until they've gone again because otherwise it's going to show up on the recording. I just need to put to put a door or something there with soundproofing.
We need like a soundproof, with the like foam. You know how you buy like the foam things?
Yeah, just egg cartons. I've got hundreds of egg cartons. I'll just glue egg cartons to the back of it. Yeah. All right. I think they're gone now. Excellent.
Yeah, I can't hear anything now.
Excellent. So again, a few different theories about how this happened. Lynn persuading him of his merits, or the Machiavellian George Reed putting Hopetoun up to it, telling him that he would have the support, thinking that he would be able to defeat him at an election as he had done previously. Now, remember, George Reed was one of the ones I mentioned earlier who was on that list of people who could have been an option, but really wasn't. It came down to Lynn and Burton. I'm calling him Burton because that's not his name.
I love it. I had to ask, and this is a little snippet that, for the publicity, of course, a Taylor Swift reference. Is he only cryptic and Machiavellian because he cares?
No, he's not cryptic and Machiavellian because he cares. He's cryptic and Machiavellian because the idea was, people think, now George Reed and Lynn had been at odds for since they first entered politics. They had been at odds with each other. They came up through the ranks together. He was the head of the opposition party at this point. So he was the head of the Free Traders at this point. He had been in office as the premier up until a year prior when Lynn took over the leadership, and then Labor switched their support from him to Lynn. So he was feeling like he's obviously gypped. He's feeling like he's been gypped. By rights, he could have been the premier at that moment, being considered to be the first prime minister. But he knew that Lynn didn't have the support within the wider Federation movement because of his opposition to the balance of the Senate. He wasn't happy with the way the Senate was being balanced.
Yep.
So there is an idea, there are some who theorize that Reed was promoting Lynn's claim on the belief that Lynn would make a much easier incumbent to beat in the inaugural election than Barton would, because Barton was much better liked.
Yeah.
Not
the erection election.
The erection election. There's just a lot of sausages in the room. There's a lot of sausages in the room.
It's a sausage fest.
It's a fucking sausage fest, all right. So I really need to make a cup of coffee after this. I'm falling asleep. So there is the idea that Reed, again, Hopetoun had been in town for 4 days before making this call. So there is the idea that he'd met with a few of these men who were all in consideration. And if they're all putting forward why they think they'd be the person to go with, and then one of them, Reed, who had been spoken to, there was the idea that he could be considered. If he had a conversation with Hopetoun at any point and said, no, I'm not the man for the job, it's definitely Lynn, here's your guy. Well, if you've got 2 out of your 4 contenders or your 5 contenders both saying one guy, maybe you are going to go with him, especially if there's already a precedent to say that he should get it anyway, because that's what they did in Canada. That's what the Canadians did. So
why not?
And it would not be beyond Reid. He was a bit smarmy in some of the things that he did in office. He was known to say he would do one thing and then do another, which was one of the reasons he lost the support of the Labor movement when Lynn came into power, was because the free traders, the Labor movement were really concerned about free trade and the effect it was going to have on our wages.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously. We all know what's happened there. And Lynn had absolutely not just talk the talk, but walk the walk when it came to putting policy in place. In his time as the Minister of Trade, he had put in policy in place to protect the workers at home, rather than he was the Minister of Trade and he made his focus, which again goes to show that you can be the Minister of Housing and make your focus everyone having a house and not the housing market doing well. It depends on what you want your focus to be. As the Minister 100%. Of Trade, he decided his job was to ensure that any trade that was done with the best interest of the Australian workforce in mind. And that was his focus, which is what made him, again, so popular in the public's mind, but not so much with the wealthy guys who, again, a lot of these guys held titles in the UK through their parents. They were still, a lot of them were first generation born Australians. And so they were still land holding gentry. They were still members of the elite. They, it was better for them if they could get cheaper labor and,
less rights for workers providing the labor. So
absolutely.
As we see, again, there has been since the beginning of time in Australian politics, literally since Federation, everything comes back to capitalism, as we always say. It has always been about how we can extract the most money out of whatever
and colonization and capitalism all coming together, because this federation, a lot of federation was based around that capitalism idea, building the economy, building the nation. Federation, like most of the concept behind federation, most of the drive was building the Australian economy, building trade, building rail networks between state to increase trade, having strong federal protections to protect the whole nation rather than having individual states. Like, it was all about the economic protections that federation would offer. That was like a large... There was a part of it was defense, but not a lot of it. Most of the conversation was around the economics of it. So again, it was all about protecting their back wallet, which again goes to show why Lynn was never a contender for the role. Now, so Lynn had to actually resign. Like, he'd accepted the position, but he approached all of these men, all of these, like Alfred Deakin, who'd been considered, Barton, who'd been considered, approached all of them to try and form a cabinet, to form the first cabinet to operate for the first 3-month government. And none of them would join his cabinet. Everyone refused to join his cabinet. They just went, not doing it. Sat on their hands and had a little tanty and said, no, you need to resign and let him pick Barton. You need to say, no, you're not doing it, pick Barton. And it wasn't until, and he just refused, but it wasn't until, Colonel Secretary Joseph Chamberlain got on the line to him. And then he said, okay, fine, I'll step down. So,
and we haven't seen things like that happen in modern politics either, have we? No.
It's not like this happens every 5 to 6 business days now. Like, Queen gets on the phone.
It's a pattern of behaviour.
Yeah, it's almost like when people say how shocking, that's because they haven't cracked open a book ever. I have no idea what they're talking about.
Yes.
So it does get a little bit. We are nearly at the end of this whole debacle. When Lynn stood aside, Barton said, look, basically there was a little bit of a conversation between Barton and Lynn where Lynn said, if you stand aside, I'll appoint you to my cabinet as the First Minister of Home Affairs, which is still to this day a very prominent portfolio, very big, very prominent, very important portfolio. So it's not a small thing at all. It's kind of like being offered the vice presidency if you drop out of the race in the US. And that also gave him a little bit of saving grace in the eye of the public, because he was withdrawing because he had difficulty forming a cabinet, but he was going to be basically, running the show as far as federation was concerned, because home affairs, that's the whole point of federation, right? Like, that's a very big deal.
Yeah.
So he was also responsible for organising the first federal election and the federal public service. So a good jobs for the good guy that we like, and we want the guy who cares about workers to be in charge of setting these things up, and also to be in charge of setting up the rules for voting. So making sure that voting was accessible to all the people who qualified. Very important to remember that nobody qualified for voting. Landowning white men qualified. But in order to make sure that everyone who qualified was able to vote, that was a big goal of his as well. So he did do some good stuff while he was in Parliament. Now, there are some who claim that Barton had promised Lynn first claim on the job were Barton to leave it for the leader of the party. So there was a bit of a backdoor promise there that they were all, because they were all part of the Protectionist Party together. Barton and Lynn both came from New South Wales, so they were both from the same home state. Deakin and a few of the others had been from Victoria, so they'd come from another state to come and join Federation. I don't even understand how the car's working because it doesn't start.
Is that your car alarm?
Yeah, the alarm's going off, but the car won't even start because the battery's dead.
What a joy.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So, Lynn apparently, someone has claimed that Lynn has claimed that Barton promised him first claim to the job if he ever left, but he went back on that and offered it to Deakin. Deakin took over from Barton when Barton left. When Barton was removed to the High Court, Lynn seems not to have even been seriously considered as a successor at all, and Alfred Deakin took over as Prime Minister. Deakin was not initially impressed by his cabinet colleague. Writing in 1900, he described Lynn as crude, sleek, suspicious, blundering, short-sighted, backwards, whose politics were a chaos and his career contemptible.
Okay, the one thing that I will always enjoy about this garbage can that is politics is how petty these. Imagine if a female politician said that about a male politician, and yet it's okay for the men to say it to each other, but if a woman were to say it, she'd be emotional. That's a very emotional thing for you to say.
Yeah. How fucking dare you? You said
so
what?
petty.
I know.
Put it on a gravestone. Put it on a t-shirt.
I couldn't not share that. I was just like, oh. But again, it just goes to show, because again, this is fucking what's his name? This is the Prime Minister we should have had. We never had the other one. Shorten. This is Shorten all over again. This is exactly what Shorten's colleagues say about him. This is exactly what Shorten's colleagues say about him. And meanwhile, the public know Shorten is one of the few ministers whose offices are always manned, and you can always go in there if you need help. He's one of the very few of them. Public love him. But his mates in Parliament, they say that he's crude, sleek, suspicious, blundering.
And his politics are contemptible.
Yes. Now, Deakin did not make his opinions public at the time, and eventually they did build up a good working relationship. Lynn served as Deakin's Minister for Trade and Customs from September 1903 to April 1904, and again when Deakin returned to office in 1905. He introduced the new protection legislation and stood in as acting Prime Minister during Deakin's illness in 1907. So he continued to act as a protection for the Labor movement, like regardless of the fact that he didn't get the top job, he didn't let that make him go and snivel off in the corner and become a useless lout. He kept doing what he'd been, what he was supposed to be doing. Like, you know, he kept doing the shit. Now, interestingly enough, Barton, okay, so in 1902, so Lynn, sorry, I've got going back quickly to under his time under Barton, he retained the Home Affairs portfolio under Barton, presiding over the bill to adopt women's suffrage in 1902. Which allowed women in all states to vote in the second federal election in 1903. So he, as far as moving and progressing voters' rights forward as well, he was a big advocate for that. So he thought it was really important that everyone who could vote did vote, and that more people have access to the ability to vote. So and this is why his ability to swallow his pride and his ego and continue working despite the loss that he no doubt suffered did a lot of good going forward. So it is good that he was able to do it. I do still kind of feel like the loss of him as Prime Minister, you know, it's like, God, can you imagine where we'd be now if that's the foot we'd started out on, the guy who wanted women to have the vote in the first federal election? Like, can you imagine how quickly Indigenous Australians would have had the vote? Let's hope. Yeah, let's hope he was also not racist as well as not misogynist. I mean, they were all misogynist because it was the nature of the times. You can't help it. But anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
As was racism, I suppose.
Yeah, as was racism. Yeah. So again, as I mentioned earlier, Lynn was definitely at the radical end of the Protectionist Party and hoped that they would form a coalition with Labor. For example, he was among a minority of protectionists who supported a land tax. Now, a lot of the reason that the Protectionists joined the Protectionist Party, because you had land-holding gentry joining the Protectionist Party, was because the idea was, if we have all of our taxes coming from tariffs, you're not going to have to introduce an income tax or a land tax.
And a land tax, yeah.
Yeah, and so they were opposed to land tax. Lynn, on the other hand, saw a land tax as another great way of being able to bring in revenue, especially because there were a lot of people who didn't have land who, rather than bringing in an income tax and taxing those people who didn't have the wealth created by land, instead tax the people who were earning money from the land. So, and this is, again, this is why I wanted to talk about Lynn a lot. In 1905, he attacked the Reid government, which was nominally supported by the Deaconites. In a speech, he declared that capital was the greatest tyrant on earth if not checked by Labor, meaning the Labor force. So he was just like, nah, capital is the enemy and we need to stop people accumulating it from the get-go. And this was one of the big problems and one of the reasons he didn't have a lot of popularity, because Reid was his number one antagonist. Like, Reid was the guy who set him up to fail, wanted him, didn't like him at all. Alfred Deakin was Barton's number two in the Federalist movement, and they were both on the same side as no land tax, don't take our wealth. So because he, came from, I suppose, his mother had been born over here. He didn't have that same, and again, Barton's mum was a school teacher. She wasn't landed gentry, but it's still just that idea because he had it coming from his father. Whereas his mother, who was born here, never had any hope of anything of the sort, came from a very different class of people, had a very different understanding of wealth and what wealth accumulation looked like. So he obviously got some of that, inbred in him. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, also in 1903, Paddy Lynn died, his wife. So the election, she died shortly after her the very first election. So she got to vote once before passing away. So, yeah. I don't know. I felt like that was a bit sweet. Like, he fought for his vote rights and his wife. Yeah.
And she got to do it one time before.
Yeah. Before she passed.
Yeah.
In June 1906, Lynn introduced the Australian Industries Preservation Bill to prevent the establishment of foreign monopolies. In April 1907, he accompanied Deakin to the Colonial Conference and gave speeches defending protectionism and arguing for preferential trade within the empire. So that was a little bit not based. That one was a little bit not based. He then did go on when Forrest resigned as treasurer under Deakin. Lynn then went on to serve as treasurer in the post, and he went on to do some good there. And he was known as a social reformer throughout his life. Now, in 1908, the fusion of the Protectionist and Free Trade parties, later renamed the Liberal Party, Lynn was in great opposition to it. Lynn was greatly opposed to the fusion of these two parties. He felt that protectionism was much more closely aligned with Liberal values, with Labor's values rather than those that were held by the Free Trade Party. But unfortunately, because a lot of those founding members had been landowning gentry, they very much did not agree. You do realise that you just cast a massive shadow across me. Yeah, just go make me a cup of tea. Make me a cup of tea. That'll be too noisy.
Hello.
Make me a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Yeah, make me a cup of coffee.
That's the reason I was leaving, because I might have to make myself coffee.
Well, make me a coffee and you can make yourself one. So Lynn remained based throughout his career, unfortunately. And yes, in 1908, he accused Deakin of betrayal over the idea of the merger, in fact.
Wow.
He thereafter sat as an independent protectionist along with three followers, George Wise, John Chanter, and David Storer. And he can be viewed as the last of the Deaconite radical liberal protectionists. While generally supporting Labor in the House, he never officially joined the party.
Well, there you go. Oh, imagine if Australia had have started out on the foot of Limmy.
Imagine.
My dog has brought a shoe to show everyone. You can put that in.
I just love the fact that the Hopeton blunder, it was called the Hopeton blunder because he selected Lynn, when really the real blunder was the fact that these dickheads all decided to not join the fucking cabinet and support Lynn. And
oppose it,
it was for 3 months. It was for 3 months.
And then you look at how much, he was able to achieve with the women's suffragette, with the vote in, 3 years? And it just begs the question of, what could he have potentially achieved in that 3 months? If he had been given the appropriate power.
It also goes to show, I think, something that I felt when I was reading it as well, is why it's really important to have someone more extreme than you if you want to be taken seriously in politics. You cannot, if you want to be the serious politician, you cannot be the most extreme voice, which is why I'm running at the next federal election, because the Greens are never going to be taken seriously as a movement while they are the most
extreme, being used very loosely as the term
for
Greens.
Exactly.
Because they are not. And this is, and it just goes to show that the entrenched problem that we've had with landlordism and, property being used as a means of capital and the landlord class essentially is something that's been entrenched in Australia and in Australian politics since Federation. So since the beginning of the birth of us as a nation, essentially. That there have always been people who have opposed it. And those people have always been viewed as extreme. They've always been kind of viewed as outliers. They've been opposed. They have been, they have had their, they've had their ability to be able to make change in that regard stifled by those who own land and those who use land as a form of building capital. Control. And so it's not a new problem that we have. It is something very deeply entrenched.
It's also not a new problem. It's not a new problem at all that the wishes and desires of the people don't match those of the parliamentarians, and therefore the wishes of the parliamentarians trump the wishes of the people. Like from the very get-go. Like, and again, one of the things that people sort of said, but there was an election and then Barton won the election. Yeah, but again, being the reason that everyone had a massive hissy fit that Lynn was chosen and Burton wasn't, was because being the incumbent does come with a little bit of that street cred. You get a little bit of the riz from being the incumbent when it comes to the election.
The riz.
Like, you do. You get the incumbent riz. And that's why it was sort of a little bit hard fought over. But to have a fucking tantrum and to have everyone refuse to join his fucking cabinet when they're all on the same side, they're all in the same party. And he was the leader of the New South Wales party, and he had the support of the other largest party that was growing at the time, the Labor Party. So, in 1908, just 7 years after Federation, Protectionists and Free Trade, who were the two biggest parties at Federation, had to fuse because the Labor movement had grown so much. And Lynn had the support of that movement,
Yeah. And so it's always been about, and I think that again, it comes back to what we always say, which is capitalism and colonization, and it comes back to the interests of the people who have done the colonizing and the capitalizing. And then it also goes to show too that, given the similarities between the two frontrunners for that role and their upbringings, it shows that it often comes back to a person's individual values and how much of their own success, so to speak, they're willing to sacrifice to represent the people in a way that they believe in. Because who else in modern politics has got the story of, not coming from a landlord class, not coming from capital wealth, not coming from, in the case of back in Federation days, having a title that came from the UK. But Anthony Albanese himself, he's got this story of how he's come from a working class background and blah, blah, blah. But that hasn't, it seemingly has had no influence whatsoever on how he represents the people who come from the very class that he, proclaims to have been raised in and shaped by.
Yep, absolutely. And the really interesting thing as well about him is that he managed to, because of his care for his constituents, and because despite the fact that he wasn't aligned with any party then, because he left the party, despite the fact that there was then like major swings towards conservatism, he managed to hold his seat in the 1910 election still, despite conservatism, only losing it in 1913, which unfortunately at that point, due to ailing health, he wasn't even able to campaign at all.
He
passed away in August 1913, a few months after the election. So he really should have been running that election anyway, and that was the election that the Liberals won. It's okay, come through here. And the seat of Hume went to the Liberals.
Is that coffee extremely full?
Coffee. Very full coffee. Yeah. Very full coffee. So he died in Double Bay, Sydney, shortly afterwards on the 3rd of August, 1913. He was survived by his second wife, Sarah Jane, and their daughter, and 3 daughters and a son from his first marriage to Paddy.
So he served the people right up until his passing, pretty much.
Yeah.
But because he was quite young. No, how old was he when he passed?
So he passed. I was going to say he wasn't that old, was he? But he was very sick. I mean, and back then too, let's not forget, they weren't exactly known for eating. Like, they didn't like to eat their greens.
No, and there wasn't obviously the type of modern medicine that we have now as well.
No, I can't believe I didn't work out
the exact age.
He was born in 1844.
Oh, no, he was older he's a lot older than I thought it was 1880 for some reason.
No, he was born in 1844.
And passed
and he died in 1913.
Oh, no, that's still 60, 70-ish?
Yeah,
70-ish?
It's not that old.
No.
Look at us trying to do math.
Oh my God, yeah, we're not mathematicians here, guys. How dare we speak about economics when we can't even do basic math? Wait for it.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I just realized the time. I've got to go because I've got to be somewhere at 4. Which
worries.
It's 10 to 4 here now. Do we want to do an outro though quickly?
Thank you so much for watching the podcast today. I have been your host, Tamara.
And I am Rachel. And this has been 2 Girls, 1 Garbage Can.
You can find us on our individual social media. I am at Tamara versus the Void everywhere. Rachel.
I am at Rach McQueen1 on TikTok, and you can find everything else in my link tree there.
And don't forget, if you've enjoyed your time with us today, then please don't forget to rate the podcast and share it with someone who needs to learn a little bit more about the garbage can state of Australian politics. And while you're rating us, please give us 5 stars because it helps other people find the podcast.
Yes, and also tell us how great we are because we have imposter syndrome.
We do. We need to be told how amazing we are. And chat, thank you for joining us. If you do want to join us while we are live streaming the podcast, we do live stream sometimes on our personal channels. So make sure to follow both of us there and join us next week for another episode of 2 Girls, 1 Garbage Can.
2 Girls, 1 Garbage Can.
Thank you. And
thank
you
for educating us. Yes.
No worries.
I will come up. So I think mine will be less historical, but it'll be more like of a modern garbage can situation that we've got going on.
Do it. Modern garbage can.
Probably leaning toward housing as well. So yeah.
Do it.
It'll be something
I was
about
say,
garbage can.
Watch that podcast I sent you for
I will.
Definitely,
I will.
It's very good.
Yes, I will. I brought it up like when we were working out our technical issues. I googled it, so I've got it open in my Safari.
Fantastic!
But yay, we did it!
We did it! Woo! We got through the podcast. We got through our episode streaming. I'm actually going to log off now. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been wonderful. Goodbye. Ending the live.
Goodbye, everyone. Yep.
Bye. Yay! Goodbye. Thank you for joining us today. I am going to do the Void After Dark tomorrow night, not tonight, but I'm going to be doing an episode of the Void After Dark tomorrow night. So please join me there. Voidism, yeah.
Voidism. I don't know how to end on Twitch without ending on StreamYard.
No, I have to do that. I have to do that. Don't you worry. We're going to do that here. All right.
Okay,
Love you guys all. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, don't go anywhere. Don't hit anything, Rach. Don't leave. Don't move.
No, I'm not.
Do anything.
I just logged off my TikTok stream. I'll just leave because I've got to run out now. So I'll just leave.